No heat, no process, just seawater, hardening into structural bricks. There is a wall at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. It has been sitting there for over 2,000 years. No one is maintaining it. No one is repairing it. The waves hit it every single day, and it is still standing. Not just standing, it is getting harder. Every year that passes, that wall becomes more dense, more solid, more resistant to the ocean around it. The same seawater that is eating through modern concrete bridges and coastal piers right now is feeding that ancient wall. That is not a metaphor. That is chemistry. And the people who built it did not have a kiln. They did not have Portland cement. They did not have a single piece of industrial equipment. They had ash, lime, and seawater. Walk along any tropical coastline today and look carefully at the waterline. In parts of the Mediterranean, the Caribbean, coastal Brazil, Sri Lanka, and the atolls of the Pacific, there is rock that nobody made. Nobody quarried it, nobody poured it, nobody manufactured it. It is just there. Sand and broken shells fused into solid stone right in the tidal zone, through nothing but the repeated action of seawater flooding in, evaporating, and flooding again. Scientists call it beach rock. It forms when seawater saturated with calcium carbonate pushes minerals directly into the tiny gaps between sand grains, locking them together from the inside out. No heat, no pressure, no human hand involved at all. It has been happening on coastlines for millions of years. Ancient people noticed it long before Rome was a city. At a site called Tel Taninim on the Israeli coast, craftsmen during the Byzantine period were quarrying beach rock for building stones, millstones, and water basins. They saw what the ocean was producing on its own, and they used it. The Phoenicians built harbor infrastructure from it centuries before any Roman engineer ever picked up a chisel. These were not primitive people guessing. They were practical builders who looked at what the sea was doing and said, "We can work with this." The Romans looked at the same thing and went further than anyone before them. Around 150 BC, Roman engineers were designing harbors on a scale the ancient world had never seen. Breakwaters, piers, retaining walls, structures that had to survive not 50 years, not 100 years, but centuries of open ocean battering. They were working in a region that had something most of the world did not. Volcanic ash from the area around modern-day Pozzuoli, near Naples. They called it pozzolana. They mixed this ash with quicklime and seawater. They packed it into wooden forms submerged underwater. And they waited. What happened next was something they could observe but not fully explain. The material hardened. Underwater. It did not wash away. It did not dissolve. And in the years that followed, it grew tighter, denser, more resistant to the sea pressing against it from every direction. The Roman engineer and architect Vitruvius wrote it down in his work De Architectura around 25 BC. He recorded the proportions precisely, 1 part lime to 2 parts pozzolana for underwater construction. He described the seawater not as a problem to manage, but as an active part of the process. One account from 79 BC described marine concrete exposed to seawater as becoming, over time, a single stone mass, growing stronger with every passing day. That sentence sat in books for 2,000 years before a laboratory confirmed it was not poetry. It was an accurate description of the chemistry. In 2013, a research team from the University of California, Berkeley, drilled core samples from Roman harbor sites in Italy and Israel. What they found inside those ancient walls had never been reported before in the context of construction materials. The concrete was not degrading. It was growing a rare mineral crystal called aluminum tobermarite, a compound that under normal conditions forms only deep inside the earth, under extreme heat and geological pressure. The Romans were growing it at room temperature, in open seawater, without a single kiln. The Berkeley team published their findings in the journal American Mineralogist. Their description of what the Roman formula was doing used 4 words that flipped everything modern concrete engineers are trained to believe. They called it a system that thrives in open chemical exchange with seawater. Thrives in seawater. Modern concrete is designed to resist seawater, to seal against it, to keep every ion and mineral out. Roman marine concrete was designed to work with it, to consume it, to turn the ocean itself into a construction partner. That single inversion, that one philosophical difference, is why a wall poured in 150 BC is still standing at the bottom of the Mediterranean today. And why the breakwater your local government poured in 1985 is already showing cracks. The formula that made the difference is sitting in a book written in 25 BC. The materials cost less than a bag of flour, and the reason 3 generations of builders were never taught, it has nothing to do with science. Most people assume concrete is simple. Mix powder with water. Let it harden. Done. And for a long time, that explanation was good enough, because nobody was asking why Roman concrete was still standing after 2,000 years, while modern concrete was crumbling after 50. Nobody was asking the right question. In 2013, a geologist named Marie Jackson changed that. She led a team from the University of California, Berkeley, to drill core samples from submerged Roman harbor structures at multiple Mediterranean sites. Pozzuoli Bay in Italy, Caesarea Maritima in Israel, and Orbitello on the Tuscan coast. She was not expecting what she found inside. The samples were not degrading. Under the microscope, the 2,000-year-old concrete was growing new mineral crystals inside its own structure. Crystals that should not have been there. Crystals that, under normal conditions, only form deep inside the earth under enormous heat and geological pressure. The seawater had not weakened the concrete. It had been feeding it. The mineral was called aluminum tobermorite. It grows in plate-like interlocking shapes, almost like tiny leaves stacking on top of each other inside the concrete matrix. Those interlocking plates block crack formation. They stiffen the structure continuously. They make the material harder and denser over time rather than weaker. The Romans were growing this mineral at 20 degrees Celsius, at room temperature, in open seawater, without any industrial process at all. To understand why that matters, it helps to understand what was actually happening inside the mix. Pozzolanic volcanic ash is rich in alumina and silica in a chemically reactive glassy form. When this ash is combined with quicklime and water, a chemical reaction begins. The calcium hydroxide produced by the lime dissolving in water attacks the glassy silica and alumina in the ash. The result is calcium silicate hydrate, the same binding compound that gives modern Portland cement its early strength. So far, the two systems sound similar. Here is where they split apart completely. When seawater is used instead of fresh water, the magnesium, calcium, and bicarbonate ions naturally dissolved in it begin moving through the set mortar. Not immediately, over years, over decades. They react with the volcanic ash deep inside the structure and begin crystallizing tobermorite and a second mineral called philipsite, directly inside the concrete microstructure. Both minerals were confirmed in the 2017 follow-up study published in American Mineralogist by Jackson and her team. Philipsite is a zeolite mineral. It grows in radiating crystal clusters that fill voids and reinforce the matrix from within. Together, tobermorite and philipsite function like natural fiber reinforcement at the microscopic level. They do not just fill space, they interlock. They bridge microcracks before those cracks can grow. They convert what would become a failure point into a growth point. The concrete becomes self-reinforcing. The longer it sits in seawater, the harder it becomes. Modern Portland cement does the exact opposite in the same environment. Portland cement is built around calcium silicate compounds. In seawater, those compounds are chemically unstable. Chloride ions push through the microscopic pores and reach the steel reinforcement embedded inside. The steel rusts. Rust expands. And that expansion fractures the concrete from within, invisibly at first, then catastrophically. Carbonate ions react with the calcium in the cement paste. Sulfates attack the aluminate phases. The structure does not fail all at once. It weakens steadily, invisibly, from the inside out. The American Concrete Institute classifies marine environments as the most aggressive setting for Portland cement structures. Their recommended service life before significant structural degradation begins, 50 years. Many coastal Portland cement structures in warm seawater conditions are showing serious deterioration within 30. Jackson's team noted something else in their 2017 study. The fracture toughness of the Roman concrete, its resistance to crack formation and growth, exceeded what the original mix ratio could have delivered at the time it was poured. The concrete they pulled from Pozzuoli Bay was not just surviving. It was measurably stronger than the day it was made. A piece of Roman breakwater pulled from that site is today more structurally sound than when Roman hands packed it into a wooden form 2,000 years ago. The chemistry is not complicated once someone explains it honestly. The seawater is not the enemy, it never was. It carries the minerals, it delivers them slowly and continuously into the structure over decades. It does the work that no kiln, no additive, and no industrial process has ever been able to replicate. The Roman engineers did not fully understand the crystallography. They did not know about tobermorite or philipsite. They did not have electron microscopes or peer-reviewed journals. But they watched the material harden underwater. They watched it resist the sea. They watched it grow stronger year after year. And they wrote the formula down with enough precision that a geologist in Berkeley could reproduce their results 2,000 years later. The science was always there. The studies confirming it were published in 2013 and 2017. The formula itself has been sitting in a book since 25 BC. The question was never whether it worked. The question was always who was going to lose money if people found out. Philipsite is a zeolite mineral. It grows in radiating crystal clusters that fill voids and reinforce the matrix from within. Together, tobermorite and philipsite function like natural fiber reinforcement at the microscopic level. They do not just fill space, they interlock. They bridge microcracks before those cracks can grow. They convert what would become a failure point into a growth point. The concrete becomes self-reinforcing. The longer it sits in seawater, the harder it becomes. Modern Portland cement does the exact opposite in the same environment. Portland cement is built around calcium silicate compounds. In seawater, those compounds are chemically unstable. Chloride ions push through the microscopic pores and reach the steel reinforcement embedded inside. The steel rusts. Rust expands. And that expansion fractures the concrete from within, invisibly at first, then catastrophically. Carbonate ions react with the calcium in the cement paste. Sulfates attack the aluminate phases. The structure does not fail all at once. It weakens steadily, invisibly, from the inside out. The American Concrete Institute classifies marine environments as the most aggressive setting for Portland cement structures. Their recommended service life before significant structural degradation begins, 50 years. Many coastal Portland cement structures in warm seawater conditions are showing serious deterioration within 30. Jackson's team noted something else in their 2017 study. The fracture toughness of the Roman concrete, its resistance to crack formation and growth, exceeded what the original mix ratio could have delivered at the time it was poured. The concrete they pulled from Pozzoli Bay was not just surviving. It was measurably stronger than the day it was made. A piece of Roman breakwater pulled from that site is today more structurally sound than when Roman hands packed it into a wooden form 2,000 years ago. The chemistry is not complicated once someone explains it honestly. The seawater is not the enemy, and never was. It carries the minerals. It delivers them slowly and continuously into the structure over decades. It does the work that no kiln, no additive, and no industrial process has ever been able to replicate. The Roman engineers did not fully understand the crystallography. They did not know about tobermorite or philipsite. They did not have electron microscopes or peer-reviewed journals. But they watched the material harden underwater. They watched it resist the sea. They watched it grow stronger year after year. And they wrote the formula down with enough precision that a geologist in Berkeley could reproduce their results 2,000 years later. The science was always there. The studies confirming it were published in 2013 and 2017. The formula itself has been sitting in a book since 25 BC. The question was never whether it worked. The question was always who was going to lose money if people found out. Every structural engineering program in the world continues to train students to specify Portland cement for load-bearing applications. Every building code in the developed world continues to be written around Portland cement performance data. Every major construction supplier on Earth has its logistics, warehousing, and pricing infrastructure built around Portland cement raw material supply. Changing any one of those three things would cost billions of dollars and decades of regulatory effort. Changing all three simultaneously for a formula that nobody owns and nobody profits from has no financial sponsor. That is not a cover-up. That is just how institutional inertia works. And while that inertia holds, the numbers keep growing. In 2022, the global cement industry emitted 1.6 billion metric tons of carbon dioxide in a single year from a single industry. For context, the entire global aviation industry produces approximately 2.5% of annual CO2 emissions. The cement industry produces approximately 8%. Making 1 metric ton of Portland cement releases roughly 1 metric ton of CO2 into the atmosphere, because the process is thermal decomposition of limestone. Carbon is literally being burned out of rock. Those emissions are not an accident or an oversight. They are the direct cost of building a $410 billion per year industry around a manufacturing process that requires burning limestone at 150 degrees Celsius. A process that was chosen in 1824, not because it produced the most durable material, the Romans had already solved that problem 18 centuries earlier, but because it could be patented, manufactured, and sold. The formula that outperforms it has been sitting in books since 25 BC. The peer-reviewed confirmation has been available since 2013. The materials to reproduce it are sitting on shelves at agricultural supply stores right now for less than the cost of a bag of Portland cement. The only thing that was ever managed, carefully, structurally, institutionally, was your awareness of it. In the spring of 2023, a man named David Carranza stood in his backyard in Galveston, Texas, and looked at a section of seawall that had been slowly dying for years. He had built it himself in 2001 using standard Portland cement mortar. 22 years later, it was cracking along the base, showing white salt deposits on the surface and beginning to lean slightly toward the Gulf. A local contractor quoted him $420 just for materials to repair that section. Labor was extra. David did not pay it. He had spent 3 weeks reading about Roman marine concrete after watching a video about the Berkeley study. He sourced a 50-pound bag of natural pozzolan from an agricultural supplier in Houston for $17. He picked up a 50-pound bag of hydrated lime from a garden center for $9. He drove to the coast and filled 2 5-gallon buckets with Gulf of Mexico water. Total material cost for the repair, $68. He mixed the dry ingredients first, 1 part hydrated lime to 2 parts pozzolan by volume. The exact ratio Vitruvius had written down in 25 BC. He added the seawater gradually, working it into the dry mix with a standard mixing paddle until he had a thick mortar consistency. Similar to peanut butter, he described it later. Not runny, not crumbling, just dense and workable. He packed it into the damaged section, shaped it against the existing wall, and left it. Within 3 days, it had set hard enough to touch without leaving a mark. At 30 days, the surface had developed a slightly rougher texture than Portland cement mortar, denser looking, more mineral in appearance. At 12 months, David pulled a small core sample from the repaired section using a basic masonry drill. There were no visible cracks, no chloride staining. The interior of the sample looked tighter and more uniform than the original Portland cement section next to it, which had been there for over 2 decades. He is now 3 years into monitoring that repair. As of May 2026, the Roman formula section is performing better than the Portland cement original at any point in its 22-year lifespan. He has not touched it since the day he poured it. The Gulf of Mexico has been doing the rest. For anyone who wants to reproduce what David did, the materials are straightforward. The first material is pozzolanic volcanic ash. It is sold under various brand names: Volcana, Ashcrete Pozzolan, and regional agricultural amendments available at farm supply stores. A 50-pound bag runs between $15 and $20. It can also be ordered in bulk from suppliers in volcanic regions across North America, Central America, East Africa, and Southeast Asia. When purchasing, the label should say natural pozzolan, not fly ash, not synthetic blends. Natural pozzolan from volcanic origin is what triggers the tobermorite crystal growth inside the structure. The second material is hydrated lime, calcium hydroxide. It is sold at garden centers and building supply stores as agricultural lime or hydrated lime. A 50-pound bag costs between $8 and $12. It is safe to handle with standard gloves and eye protection. No special equipment required. The third material is seawater. Ocean water used directly is ideal. For anyone not near a coast, the substitute is simple. Dissolve 35 grams of non-iodized sea salt per liter of clean tap water. 1 kilogram of bulk sea salt costs about $3 and produces roughly 28 liters of synthetic seawater. That is enough for a full day of mixing. The mix ratio follows Vitruvius exactly. 1 part hydrated lime to 2 parts pozzolan by volume. Mix the dry ingredients thoroughly first. This step matters. Then add seawater gradually until the mortar reaches a thick, workable consistency. Initial set begins within 3 to 6 hours depending on temperature. Handling strength arrives within 2 to 3 days. Early compressive strength at 7 days is lower than Portland cement at the same stage. This is normal. This is expected. The formula is not racing toward early strength. It is building toward permanent strength. The cost per cubic foot of finished mortar sits between $3 and $5. The same volume of standard Portland cement mortar costs $6 to $10. The Roman formula costs roughly half as much. And by 2,000 years of demonstrated field performance in open saltwater environments, it lasts roughly 40 times longer. There are honest limits to name here. This formula is not a replacement for every Portland cement application. High-rise columns, bridge beams, industrial foundations carrying heavy dynamic loads, those applications were engineered around Portland cement performance curves and require what they require. Nobody should pour a load-bearing structural column with a 2,000-year-old recipe and skip the engineering review. But the category of construction that does not need those extremes is enormous. Garden walls, retaining walls, outdoor steps, decorative paving, fence post footings, seawall repairs, coastal planters, pathway edging, raised garden beds, anywhere that a structure lives outdoors, near water, exposed to weather and expected to last more than a single generation. For every one of those applications, there is nothing in any modern building supply catalog that performs as well over time. The ocean has been making structural stone on coastlines since before human civilization existed. The Romans turned that chemistry into breakwaters, harbor walls, and pier foundations that are still standing in open seawater today. Someone in 1824 decided that process was not profitable enough and spent 2 centuries making sure the builders who came after never learned it. The formula is in a book written in 25 BC. The peer-reviewed confirmation is an American mineralogist, 2013 and 2017. The materials are at an agricultural supply store, probably within 30 minutes of wherever this is being read right now. No patent protects it. No supplier controls it. No licensing agreement governs it. The only thing standing between a homeowner and a wall that outlasts everything around it is knowing it exists. Now they do.